Welcome to the Woke Socialist podcast. We're woke, we're socialist, we don't fall for the okey doke, and we are not afraid of white people. Today I went through my retorts to some of the comments I made. And let me be clear that long before there was America Online and social media, and everyone being able to have access to the internet, I studied network engineering. So if you comment on anything on social media associated with the John Brown Alliance or the Woke Socialist podcast, within probably about 10 or 15 minutes, if it's nasty and anti-democratic, we know who you are, where you live, where you work, and all that stuff. And you can thank Elon Musk for that, for making it easier for people like me to find people like you. Now, today, some idiot assumed that I was another idiot, and I was on another podcast, and they tried to convince me that rich people voted for Kamala Harris. The minimum wage should be gotten rid of. And if you are not earning enough money to live, it is because you don't work hard enough. In simple terms, we call that a troll. Okay? That person probably didn't donate one dime to Kamala Harris or vote for her. But at any rate, these are the types of manipulative individuals that we have coming after us on independent media. And we need to recognize what it is, not feel threatened by it, and stand up to it. And that is what we do here at the Woke Socialist. Now, I would like you to like and subscribe to this video and our podcast. But if you don't, in 2026, you're going to miss out on a whole lot of information that can help us defeat fascism. You need to question everything right now and not assume that the sources of attacks against you as social media content creators come from some force that can enforce them. There are people out here with nothing more to do than sit in their basement and threaten you. And I have found those people and outed them, and I will continue to do so. So I invite you on this podcast, if you have someone that you have the handle for that is ostracizing you, making threats, or threatening to kill you because you stand up for democracy, please put those in the comment section. And that includes senators that are pro-Constitution, elected officials that don't feed in to AIPAC and special interests, multi-billionaires. I'm asking grassroots people to reach out to people like me, because there is help out here. And I am right smack dab in the middle of the eye of the storm. Just far enough away from Washington, D.C., not to suffer from an immediate attack from our former allies against this government that has waged war against the rest of the world in the name of Donald Trump. But we do have enough resources right now to keep some people fed, some people protected, and preserve this democracy. Now, I want to get back to the subject of this particular podcast. And this is going to be a little bit long because my eyes are bad. And I also want you to get all the information that you need. A lot of people are wondering why Marco Rubio is acting the way he is. And we have done several months of investigation on the Cuban Revolution and Marco Rubio right now, and how his particular policies are well aligned with fascism and communism. I believe that there are people in the United States Congress, and especially in the state of Florida, that did not know these things about this man and his family. Now, I never trusted Cuban refugees in Florida because they always vote Republican. Now I know why. Actually, I knew why a long time ago. Because like I said, this motherfucker went sour way before everybody started talking about him. I went through the full history of the Cuban Revolution, which brings us to this. Now, I'm having problems seeing right now because I have an autoimmune disorder that I'm not being helped with, even though I pay taxes by the United States government, so they don't consider me disabled. I'm going to have to run up and get my magnifying glass. Okay, now, Latinos in America that voted for Donald Trump, that are lighter than my mother, have convinced themselves that they are white. And they have done that since maybe the Reagan administration. I don't know. But since the Reagan administration, Republicans have convinced Latino Americans, especially Cuban Americans of Florida, that they will watch out for them. Now, in the last Trump administration, Cubans watched their Latino brothers and sisters be caged up and treated like dirt. They weren't fed or given medical care. And children were crying and ripped away from their parents. And these kids, there's something like 1,000 of them now that still can't find their parents. And the parents can't find their kids. We don't talk about that. Now, during this administration, the same Cuban Americans in Florida are contacting me saying that they are white and proud, while their own brothers, sisters, and cousins are being deported by the Trump administration. Why does that happen? The same reason why Black Americans are not all from the same place in the United States. Native Americans are not from the same nations and reservations in the United States. So Latino Americans are not from the same countries as Cuban Americans. But they tend to marry and associate with other Latinos. So if you are white and Cuban American, one of your relatives might have married someone from Mexico and they get deported. And now you want to be pissed off. And now you want people like me to step in on your behalf. And we have done that for a couple of elections now. But you dumbass motherfuckers still turn around and vote Republican. Let me tell you about one of your own. Now, black people call them Uncle Toms and sellouts. Let me tell you about one of your own and his family. Now, I got this information, in case I don't document it, off of Wikipedia about Marco Rubio, your man. Marco Rubio was born in 1971 in Miami, Florida. He is the second son and third child of Mario Rubio Reyna and Aurealis Rubio. His parents were Cubans who immigrated to the United States in 1956 during the regime of Fulgencio Batista. 2.5 years before Fidel Castro ascended to power after the Cuban Revolution. His mother made at least 4 return trips to Cuba after Castro's takeover. Now, mind you, if you're a refugee under United States law, you are not supposed to go back to that country. But I digress. Including a month-long trip in 1961 and a return to Cuba, had been planned before the changes in their native country. Rubio's parents were not U.S. citizens at the time of Rubio's birth. They were naturalized in 1975. Some relatives of Rubio's were admitted to the U.S. as refugees. Rubio's material grandfather, Pedro Victor Garcia, immigrated to the United States legally in 1956, but returned to Cuba to find work in 1959. When in 1962 he fled communist Cuba and returned to the U.S. without a visa. He was detained as an undocumented immigrant, and an immigration judge ordered him to be deported. But immigration officials reversed their decision later that day, and the deportation order was not enforced. Instead, Garcia was reclassified to the legal status of parolee that allowed him to stay in the United States of America. He reapplied for permanent resident status in 1966 after the Cuban Adjustment Act passed, and his residency was approved. Rubio had a close relationship with his grandfather during his childhood. In October 2011, the Washington Post reported that Rubio's previous statements that his parents were forced to leave Cuba in 1959 after Fidel Castro came to power were falsehoods. His parents left Cuba in 1956 during the Batista regime. According to the Post, Florida being connected to the post-revolution exile community gives a politician cachet that could never be achieved by someone identified with the pre-Castro exodus, a group sometimes viewed with suspicion. This clearly states that Marco Rubio did not flee Castro's regime, but he fled the change that might result in his own family's execution. But I digress. Rubio denied that he had embellished his family history, stating that his public statements parents intended to return to Cuba in the 1960s. He added that his mother took his two elder siblings back to Cuba in 1961 with the intention of living there permanently. His father remained behind in Miami, wrapping up the family matters, but the nation's move toward communism caused the family to change its plans. Rubio said that the essence of my family history is what they came to America in the first place and why we had to stay. Now, let me take you back for a minute. What he is saying, in essence, is that they fled Cuba on account of communism. All of the information that I read to you, if you couple that with research and history of the Cuban Revolution, says otherwise. They fled there not with communist ideals, but with this regime, the Batista, that had more fascist ideals. They came to America so that they would not be executed, in my opinion. But now they are trying to implement these same fascist ideals with Marco Rubio in tow and Latinos signing on to this. Now let me restate this. Way before Cuban Americans came here, we were trying to build a more perfect union. The enemy within is these types of infiltrators that sign on to MAGA and white supremacists. They all have the same playbook. Stephen Miller, Marco Rubio, the United States Congress under MAGA, and the Supreme Court to implement exactly what failed in Cuba as fascism here in the United States. But they found like-minded individuals within each other. And though it was postponed, this is what they intend to do with the United States. This is why they're forming under your eye, your sleeping eye, all these land grabs within the United States. Golf courses and little cities they're trying to create. Concentration camps. That's how it happened in Nazi Germany. Do you not see this? What the fuck do you not get? Now I'm going to finish this. Rubio has 3 siblings. Older brother Mario, older sister Barbara, married to Orlando Cecilia, and younger sister Veronica, formerly married to entertainer Carlo Ponce. Rubio received his first communion as a Catholic in 1984 before moving with his family back to Miami a year later. He was confirmed. Although he changed religious affiliation several times, he would eventually remain with the Catholic Church. From ages 8 to 11, he and his family attended the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter day Saints, the Mormons, while living in Las Vegas. During those years in Nevada, his father worked as a bartender at Sam's Town Hotel, and his mother as a housekeeper at the Imperial Palace Casino. I am going to have more to come on this motherfucker because one of his relatives is also a drug dealer. I don't think I printed that out. No, I did not. But I will. But anyway, one of his relatives is a drug dealer, and that's another show. But at any rate, please like and subscribe to this video because it is my intention to stop doing research in the dark and start exposing these people for what they are. And one of my next people, I'm going to choose a politician, a Republican politician, a MAGA politician, try to do it once a week. I can't get on here much, but I'm going to still try and do that. This is the Woke Socialist podcast. All I can say is stay tuned.